Good morning. I'd like to bring the April 21st, 2021 Planning Advisory Commission meeting to order. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and our flag is right outside the back window if you'll face that direction. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. If you will, please, I ask that you silence or turn off your cell phones. Today we're operating under much different circumstances, as you're most aware. Most meetings are now being held different. We have some commissioners that are watching by television or YouTube and will be forwarding questions to me via text. We will have citizens calling in via phone with questions and or comments, so we ask that those that are watching here and by other means to be patient with us as we move these cases forward. Phone number in which you can call in is 706-225-3937, and that should be on your screen for those that are watching electronically. And I remind those in the audience and those that are watching by other means that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception requests that are brought before us today. We will first hear a reading of the staff report by planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request or to inquire about that request. The commissioners will have any needed discussion on the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the City Council with the two independent recommendations. If the Planning Department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the Clerk of Council that they are requesting to be placed on City Council agenda. The City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting, and it's called the first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review our recommendation and the Planning Department recommendations, hear discussion on the matter. Council will make a final decision at a second public meeting called the second reading. Okay, our first agenda item today is approved minutes, but we do not have any available. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the cases that we have today. And first case is a rezoning case, and this is REZN 03-210585. This is a request to rezone 7.06 acres of land located at 4322 Rosemont Drive. Current zoning is SFR 3, Single Family Residential 3. Proposed zoning is RO Residential Office. The proposed use is apartments. Carson Cummings is the applicant. This property is located in Council District 8. Mr. Garrett, we will first hear from planning on the staff report.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. The general land use is consistent for planning area D. The current land use designation is public institutional. The future is single family residential. It is compatible with the existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. Developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit. If a permit is required, property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 505 trips if used for residential use. The level of service will remain a level C. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of the CCG for residential usage. There'll be no school impact. The buffer requirement, the site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the SFR 3 zoning district. Those three options on a Category C are 20 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall, 30 feet undisturbed natural buffer. No response from Fort Benning, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning to the north is general commercial, to the south is single family residential 3, to the east is single family residential 3, to the west is residential multifamily 2. 85 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received 3 phone calls and or emails regarding the rezoning. Those phone calls were neither for approval or for opposition, just more for inquiries.
Thank you, Mr. Renfro. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions of Mr. Renfro regarding the staff report? Anyone? All right, and I know the applicant is away, so there's someone going to be filling in. If you would please give your name and your address for the record, please.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Ed Adams. I'm with Caldwell Banker Commercial, 1025 First Avenue. We are here, we represent the property owner in Muskogee County School District and also working with the developer on this project. So, yeah, this is, for those of y'all who might remember, this is the old Rosemont Elementary School. And it's been, the school building and everything kind of deteriorated until a couple years ago. The Muskogee County School District decided to tear it down. And since then, it's just been a vacant land ready for reinvestment and redevelopment. So we're asking today to rezone the property RO. We believe that RO is most suitable for this property. One of the main reasons being that, like Mr. Renfro said, to the south and to the southeast of this property is SFR. To the north is general commercial, and then to the northwest is RMF, as well as some neighborhood commercial and some other RO. We believe that RO is a good transition buffer between the single-family residential property that's to the south and southeast of us, and then the general commercial that's along the Manchester Expressway corridor. So the project that we're looking to do is an apartment project that will be an apartment project on the property. It will be done by a couple of developers, local developers here in town, Taylor Gross and Jamie Herndon. Both Taylor and Jamie are lifelong residents of Columbus. They're well respected within the real estate industry as well as the development industry, investment, and they've got other projects that they've done, and I'm sure you've seen a number of Jamie's signs around town, Herndon Builders. So they're good people. With me today, Taylor Gross, representing the developer, is here with me today, as well as Dave Goldberg, as representing the Muskogee County School District. So the entire property, since it was an old school, the entire property is already serviced by all infrastructure and everything we need from the city. So there'll be no additional investment on behalf of the city. In addition to that, we believe that once this property is sold from the school district to the developers and it's developed, it will create a substantial increase in the tax roll for the city, which I'm sure is very welcome. So other than that, we're here if you got any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions from Ms. Weekly?
I have a question. Will this be subsidized or affordable?
The plan right now is for market rate. So it's not any kind of subsidy.
Okay.
Will there be an on-site property manager or?
We are, as of right now, we're very early in the process. I would say our plan right now is to have some on-site management, whether that be a full-time manager on-site or someone who's maybe splits time between another property. Not really sure, but as far as maintenance goes, we will have some maintenance staff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ms. Weekly?
I have an additional question, I'm sorry. How many units are you proposing?
Again, we are very early in the process right now. And actually, the property is still owned by the Muskogee County School District. What we're doing here today and getting it rezoned is a condition of the sale. So once we get this process finished and move towards selling the property to the developers, we'll be able to answer those questions live. Let me say this, we would stick obviously within the density requirements of RO. I mean, we're not doing anything too crazy.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? What are you thinking as far as numbers? We don't have to hold you to it, of course, since your plan's not firm, but.
Yeah, don't hold me to it. I mean, we're thinking anywhere between 8 and 12 units an acre, But please, I know this is recorded and televised, so, but please don't hold me to that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, commissioners? Yes,
Just to
Commissioner.
clarify, when you say you're thinking of 8 to 12 units an acre, so that would be 50 to 75 units total if it's 7 acres?
That's ballpark. I mean, we've got a lot of things to look at, including, you know, some of the parking, access, stuff like that. So, it's going to be a nice project. It's going to be a low-impact project that is, as you saw probably on the design, a lot of the buildings are low-impact street-facing buildings. So it's going to be a nice project.
Okay, but you're talking more than 10 and less than 300, so.
More than 10, less than 300. Yes, that's a good ballpark.
That's a good place to put it. Anyone else? Anyone else have any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank y'all.
All right, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak for this case? Please do so.
Yes, I would.
You all right, sir? Please come up to the microphone. Give me your name and address, please, for the record.
Jackson Turner, 3766 Forest Road. And firstly, looking for Mr. Renfro. Right. I sent an email of concerns about this project to Mr. Renfro. He's supposed to have sent that to everybody. Has everybody received a copy of the email and watched the video?
Yes. Well,
Okay, that's one. Did you get an email from Mr. Renfro and watch the video? Okay, you need to watch the video. Did you see the video? No, I didn't see the video. Did you see the video? No, I haven't seen the video. Did you watch the video in its entirety? Okay. My position is if nobody's watched the video, then we just need to redo this next time around because I sent it out to Mr. Renfro. It was a pretty long video with a lot of details included, and I would ask that we just reschedule this to start again after everybody's watched the video because it's pertinent to this.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Let me tell you one thing. You're supposed to be up here telling me exactly what your objections are, if you have objections or if you have for. I asked for, against, or against.
All right, well, here's
All
my
right, now-
objection then. My objection is that you've been provided information to make a decision and you haven't made it, okay? You haven't looked at the information provided. So that's my objection.
Well, this is a public forum, so
Correct.
everybody needs to hear what you have to say.
All right, that's, all right. I provided a video that shows in depth the runoff issues that we have, and I think one person amongst you has even taken the time to watch it. So I'd ask that we do our due diligence and watch this video and then have this meeting, okay? So, but I will take the time to read through what was provided with this video since nobody's taken the time to watch it. I'm just going to read the details of this to you, okay? At 0 seconds, the drain directly ahead, which is at Head Start, is flowing in reverse. At 44 seconds, another drain is flowing in reverse. This led to flooding of the Head Start, as you will see later. At 1 minute and 48 seconds, the drain is flowing in reverse. At 2 minutes, Rosemont Drive is underwater. At 2 minutes and 12 seconds, the depth of the water is up to the hubcaps. At 2 minutes and 21 seconds, water is pouring out of the subject property onto the already flooded Rosemont Drive. At 3 minutes and 4 seconds, water is bouncing off of the truck tires. You can see the white caps. At 3 minutes and 14 seconds, water is deeper than the curb, over 3 inches. Now, this was all provided into an email that was supposed to be forwarded to everybody, all right? 3 minutes and 14 seconds, water is deeper than the curb, over 3 inches. 3 minutes and 21 seconds, the garbage cans have been washed downstream into the middle of the road. 4 minutes, now this has got 2 stars because this is a current issue. Please get your email, all right, because I put all this into an email. 4 minutes and 24 seconds, the drain at the intersection of Maxwell and Rosemont is currently broken. It's broken at this time. 4 minutes and 36 seconds, the drain midway up Maxwell behind the trees, a big, deep concrete box, a catch basin, is currently broken, all right? And what I have beyond that, I'm just reading the email that you should have received. The entire system is broken and caved in from the drain all the way to Woodruff. Columbus Consolidated Government is slowly repairing it, all right? 5 minutes and 5 seconds. To the left is the St. Francis expansion. They had to dig up half of the parking lot in the past year because of problems with the drainage. I don't know if you noticed that project or not, but they actually had to dig out the parking lot. It was built, and they had to turn around and dig up several acres of parking and redo it, okay? 5 minutes and 34 seconds. The culvert added when the spectrum took place, took the block from Crown and built the convenience store. There's a, quote, retaining pond, unquote, behind the fence that is worthless and under capacity. The water runs to the clogged up and broken catch basin, which I previously mentioned. 542, looking up Manchester Expressway. This is a huge concrete and asphalt hill that dumps water right down Rosemont Drive. 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Water ran into reverse with such force that it blew out the grate over the drain. This is a several hundred pound steel grate literally blown out and onto the road. 6 minutes and 25 seconds. Head Start employee is now cleaning out the flooded Head Start building. All right? I'm just reading from my emails what I'm doing. What these show is a downstream runoff system is backed up from Woodruff Road all the way to Manchester Expressway along Rosemont Drive. The runoff system is already well past capacity. Any building on the subject property will need a substantial plan for dealing with rainwater. One more drop is too much because it's already beyond capacity. All right? Columbus Consolidated Government has taken steps such as putting in drain pipe across Rosemont, close to Acacia, and at the 44 on one end of Rosemont, getting a temporary easement at 4103, cutting a tree and putting an overflow ditch in from behind the building, down the yard into Maxwell, which now serves as the primary means of getting water off the property, okay? The catch basin is broken. The water being poured in from the Circle K end runs down to a broken catch basin. It will not receive the water. The water then overflows, runs down the actual yard of 4103 in great amounts. You need to go see for yourself, and then runs down to another broken drain at the corner of Maxwell and Rosemont, all right? And my position on that is that Columbus Consolidated Government needs to fully repair the rainwater system from Manchester to Woodruff Road on several blocks before any further construction is done, or risk causing serious damage to adjacent properties. A catch basin on the subject property will have to be substantial and very slow flowing. It is dirt and grass at this time, which soaks up some water. All right, continuing on, the 14 apartment buildings across the subject property utilize on-street parking. Any construction cannot disrupt the flow of traffic, take up lanes, etc. Cars pull in and back out requiring both lanes. Heavy construction equipment cannot take up large parts of the road for any period of time, or people will be unable to get in and out of the parking, all right? Then I talk about an ingress, egress, something I proposed. I won't go into it, but I said I'm not opposed to this project. It needs to be carefully planned, and Columbus Consolidated Government needs to do their part with the rainwater or risk a multi-million-dollar disaster, all right? You can't just build over here and flood out everything around you. It's already almost flooded, right? If we work together and think outside the box and treat this as a major improvement to the city, it would be a home run for everybody, okay? All right, so that's my point. My concern here is that I sent this email out, and I was assured that it would be forwarded to everybody, and I have heard one person out of everybody up here say they've even taken the time to watch it, right? So my concern is that, given a legitimate concern in writing, in depth, with video, who watched it? One person? One person has taken the time to watch it. I asked that this whole thing start over after you've watched the video, because we're not doing our due diligence in advance.
Well, let me rest your mind. Everybody did receive the email.
All right?
Okay.
But you did not watch the video, then what have you been
What
doing?
exactly does the video have in it?
It
Because I
shows-
did read the email, and I didn't get the email till yesterday, and I'm sorry I didn't watch the video. I had a busy, crazy day yesterday. But I hear your complaints, but what does the video show?
It shows the runoff system the rainwater runoff system is beyond capacity already. It's what it shows. It's in depth, all right? It takes you down the whole street during the rain, shows it flooding, shows things shows the rainwater system running in reverse, right? It shows the place flooding out. The name of the video is called the Rosemont River, okay? Please take the time to watch this. Now, I want to assure you, I'm not opposed to this. I'm not opposed to their project. I don't want to interfere with the city of Columbus moving forward. However, we don't need to make a bad situation 10 times worse. Now it's time for Columbus Consolidated Government to act on this problem instead of compounding it. Right?
Was
That's
this-
my.
Was this problem like this when the school was there?
Okay, what has happened is the city of Columbus has started taking measures to correct this issue. And that's included in my video. I talked about what it's included in my email. There again, if you've read my email, it talks about the steps that Columbus Consolidated Government has taken. Things are dramatically improved from where they were. When I say dramatically, I'm going to take dramatically back. Things are somewhat improved, okay? A drain line was built across Rosemont Drive to the Acacia side. That's fine. That's taken care of. The temporary easement at 4103 where a tree was cut out and an overflow ditch was put in, that has been taken care of. What has started working their way up Rosemont Drive and fixing the messed up, I'm not even going to say what I think, runoff system. But they're moving extremely slowly. So things have improved to the point it is now tolerable. At the time of that video, it was completely intolerable. It was an absolute mess. It has now gotten tolerable. However, I don't want it going back in reverse. And on that video, if you'll take the time to watch the video, you'll see water pouring out of the subject property into the road, all right? You take the time to watch the video, otherwise what I'm saying here might not carry as much weight as it could, all right? This is not an attempt to mess up their project, but it's an attempt to make sure that we do not make the city's decade of work trying to alleviate it start back at square one. Take the time to watch the video, all right?
All right.
That's one concern. Concern number two is I'm concerned about the construction part of this right here. I don't know if you know that there's a large apartment construction project going on at Warm Springs. There was at Warm Springs Road, okay? On December, there was blockage of lanes of traffic, and unfortunately, a young man lost his life there on December 10th. Actually, he was mortally wounded. You got traffic sudden stopping, cars moving in and out, lanes blocked. The young man was driving a motorcycle and got caught up in the sudden stoppage, ended up losing his life. So I'd ask that if any construction we do on this area, take in consideration the traffic, right? We can't just get a bunch of heavy equipment out there and start stopping traffic on a dime or something bad's gonna happen, all right? That's what happened over on Warm Springs Road by Flat Rock. It was very unfortunate.
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner. Any questions, Mr. Dudley?
Well, I have a question for staff. In the staff report, you say the developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. In this case, is a site development permit going to be required?
It would be, and overall, I mean, right now, this property does not have any type of detention or retention facility on it. The school is obviously not required to do that. So when they build this project, all of that water will have to be held on their property. So if anything that's coming, all of the water on this particular 7 acres will be held on site.
And which part of the city government would approve that plan?
They would, the engineering department would approve that.
Okay, so they're the ones to address water runoff concerns?
Yes, sir.
And I'm involved in development around town quite a bit, and they are very strict on those retention ponds.
Okay,
So,
may I comment on that right there?
sure.
All right. When the culvert was put at the Circle K on Manchester Expressway, it dumped water directly behind it into the yards of the property of the 14 apartment buildings, okay? Somebody in planning, engineering, whatever, thought that it was acceptable to just take water that was running off of a commercial property and just dump it into the yards of 14 apartment buildings. They just thought that was acceptable. So I honestly don't have a lot of faith in the engineering and approval process, because I know that they just literally just go see for yourself at the Circle K. You'll see a culvert right dead in the middle of their parking lot. And if you'll follow that water, it dumps directly into those properties. It doesn't go on the street, it doesn't go anywhere else. It dumps it right onto those properties. I urge you to go look at that Circle K and look at that culvert. So when you say that this person's approving this and that person's approving this, you know what, I see what got approved, okay? So my let's just say my opinion of who's approving and their competence level is an issue here, okay? Now, they did go back and build a retaining pond behind that Circle K to try to solve that problem. The retaining pond, if you'll actually look at that retaining pond, is inadequate. It's still flooding the properties. There's 14 buildings owned by several people who have their money invested, who had their properties turned into a retaining pond by the Columbus Consolidated Government, okay? So when you say retention pond, you know what? I've seen a retention pond, okay? Go look at that retention pond, you'll see they've got a big pipe coming out the side of it because it's overflowing, okay? They're trying to keep it from eroding over the top. So what do they do to keep it from actually the retaining pond itself from washing away? They put a drain pipe right through the retaining pond to dump the retaining pond water right onto the properties. Go see for yourself. If somebody says they have this plan or that plan, I am very skeptical that it's going to be done competently, and that's just my position. I ask everybody to watch this video that I provided to you, and then come back and let's have a conversation about it. I made that video for a purpose. I sent it to Mr. Renfro, who assured me he'd send it to everybody else for a purpose. Please take the time to watch that. I ask that we watch it and then continue. I'm not trying to do any other project. I want this project to move forward, but I want it done competently, and I don't want shortcuts taken, and I don't want 10 years of Columbus Consolidated Government's work being ruined, trying to fix that problem being ruined by this project. That's my position.
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner. Is anyone else in the audience like to come up and speak for or against this case? Please come forward at this time. All right. Yes, sir.
Can I respond to some?
Absolutely. Come on up, Mr. Adams.
Just wanted to point out a couple things that he touched on. First off, with the water, I have not seen the video either. I did ask him to please send it to me, but with the water runoff and all that, everything that he spoke about mainly pertains, it sounds like it pertains to engineering, which is off our site. One thing that I wanted to just bring up and that Mr. Renfro brought up is the school board, or the school building that was there. That's mid-1950s construction that was there. It's since been demolished. When we go in and redevelop this site, it's going to be brand new construction. It's going to have to pertain to a site plan of today's standards, including retention ponds and all that stuff. So I would make the statement that redeveloping this site will improve any kind of water runoff or anything that's on Rosemont or anything like that, because it will have to pertain to a current site plan. Mr. Turner mentioned something about delaying, and I just want to touch on this process is, the purchase of the property is contingent upon this process moving forward. So my concern with any kind of delay was we would have to go back and take a look at our purchase agreement and see kind of what our timeline is. So I would highly advise against that, please. So thank you.
I'd like to speak on that point if I could, since we're talking about that.
You have anything else to add over what you've already said?
Well, I'm responding to his comment. I allowed him to make a response to that. He responded to mine, I'll respond back.
Sure.
Right.
You need to come to the podium, sir.
Right.
Can I ask one
I'm not trying to
quick
do
question?
damage to this property.
Yes, hold on just a minute. I have a question from the commissioner.
What does Rosemont, does it turn into a river when it rains, or what?
Have you watched the video? That's why I provided it. If nobody's watched the video, then we're talking about some, if everybody had watched the video like I had requested, you would know exactly what I was talking about. I'm up here, and one person amongst you has taken the time to watch it, and I'm saying that I'm concerned that I took the time to record a video and to go through and go through a second by second and discuss that video. And thank you, sir, for taking the time to watch that, because I took the time to create it and I took the time to document it for you.
So the yards of the houses flood and the road floods and...
Please watch
I
the
mean,
video.
I can understand it if you explain what the main problem is.
Correct. What happens is The issue is, first of all, let me emphasize something here. Nobody's attempting to stop their project. What I'm saying, utilize extreme caution, all right? What it shows, if you know that area, what you'll notice is there's a big, massive concrete and asphalt hill called Manchester Expressway, all right? At one time, it was like 2 lanes, and now it's up to like 4, 5, 6, 7 lanes. All that water has to go somewhere. From Armour Road at the top, all the way down to Rosemont, all that water comes rushing down Manchester Expressway and pours right onto Rosemont Drive, okay? It just pours right on there. And to compound that matter, we have the culvert over there at the Circle K, which pours water directly into people's properties, okay? And so what it is, it will literally jump the curb. What are curbs, 3 inches tall? Take the time to watch the video. It will jump the curb and run right into the yards of those 14 buildings right now. It jumps the curb, right? Steps have been taken, but we still have several damaged pieces of the runoff system over there. And my major concern for everybody sitting here, one person, I want to thank you very much for actually taking the time to watch the video. It was provided for a reason. My concern now is nobody took time to watch the video except one person.
So you think that this project's going to create more runoff? Is that what you're worried about?
My concern is, okay, 2 concerns. Number 1 is the retaining pond behind the Circle K, which if you will go look for yourself, they put a pipe through it to dump the water out of it, but so that it wouldn't erode away. They did not build an adequate retaining pond. There's more water there than you realize. It's more than you realize and so I just urge you, what I urge people to do, I don't want to torpedo this project. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to say, let's fix the runoff problem. People can talk retaining pond all day long, okay? But if it's inadequate, such as the one behind the Circle K, what have we done? If it's not going to be adequate, if they're going to have to put a hole through the side of the retaining pond and dump the water into the neighbor's yard over there, it's just a retaining pond on paper. And I know the school district needs to sell the property. I know that Mr. Adams here, he wants this project to move forward. I'm concerned that only one person has watched the video. I know it came short notice, but I would appreciate it if people would watch it before they make any kind of decision at all. And I would appreciate it if the city would make a commitment to continue fixing that issue until it is fixed as part of this project. It may cost the city a little bit of money, but it needs fixing anyway. Now's the time. The neighborhood's about to be improved. Now's the time to resolve it all. Resolve the runoff, build the complex, and work right.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Turner.
I have a comment and a question for Mr. Renfro also. My comment is, having seen your description of the video, I'm not an engineer, but seeing the description of the video, that to me was sufficient for me to understand what you're talking about, and that I'm not an engineer. And so my question for Mr. Renfro is there somebody from the city who can discuss his concerns and explain them to us, explain the city's point of view?
As far as the rainwater runoff, there is somebody with the city that could, I guess, analyze that and discuss it with you. But this is a Columbus Waterworks issue.
Yes.
As far as this pertaining to this development, it's important, but it's not a land use decision. So just take that into consideration.
And that will all have to be addressed, through the engineering process. And I'm sure Mr. Turner will bring this up at council as well. But however, we are here to determine if this is an appropriate land use for this particular parcel of property. So, and we understand his concerns and sympathize and empathize with your concerns, but that's where we are. So, anyway. All right, we're going to move on. Any other comments from the audience, for or against? Please come forward. And with that said, I'd like to open the floor up for a motion, since no one else has come forward.
I have seen the video.
Okay.
I also am not a city engineer, nor is anyone in this room. Previously, on the buyer side, on the seller side, I worked with Mr. Gross, who was on the buyer side, purchasing a different property that also had a surrounding area with retention issues. They were required at that time to put forth a plan that helped solve some of the issues for property that wasn't theirs, and they did so. And so my motion is that we go ahead and approve this rezoning of REZN 3210585.
Okay, and that's based on,
I don't know what the right,
I know, you're new.
I'm
but
new, yeah.
You know, it's consistent with.
yeah,
comprehensive
based
plan.
based on land use.
Okay.
If we're looking purely at land use, that this would be a consistent use with this property.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Have a couple of seconds. Any discussion? Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Thank you, gentlemen, very much. All right. We move on to the next case, and next case is case number REZN 03-210588. This is a request to rezone 1.66 acres of land located at 1372 Celia Drive. Current zoning is SFR3, Single Family Residential 3. Proposed zoning is SFR2, Single Family Residential 2. The proposed use is a church. Agape Missionary Baptist Church Incorporated is the applicant, and this property is located in Council District 1. Mr. Barnes, and we'll hear from Mr. Renfro first on the staff report.
Yes, sir. General land use is consistent for planning area E. Current land use designation is single-family residential. Future single-family residential, it is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. The property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 124 if used for commercial use. The level of service will remain a level A. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for commercial usage. There'll be no school impact, no buffer requirements, no fort bending recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning to the north is SFR2, south is SFR2, east is SFR2, west is SFR2. 65 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received one call and/or email regarding the rezoning. That response was approval for the rezoning. As far as additional information, they are trying to replat their property. One of the parcels is SFR3, so to be able to replat those together, they have to have the same zoning type. We don't allow dual or separate zonings to be replatted together. And in doing so, the next case is a special exception to allow for a church to be permitted on between 1 and 2 acres, but we'll get to that after this.
Okay, so you want to address that separately?
That'll be, I'll read that staff report after we make the decision on that, because this has to be addressed first.
Okay. Commissioners, y'all have any questions of Mr. Renfro at this time? All right. Now, who's going to be representing Agape Missionary Baptist Church? Would you please give your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Yes, my name is James York Jr. I reside at 61 Apache Trail, Fort Mitchell, Alabama. I am the pastor of the church. We have purchased the property that's at 4408 Langdon, and then the property on Cecilia was donated to us by Mr. Keenan from Colwell Banker. And as we was in the process of trying to do it the correct way, and when Mr. Renfro said I had to do the rezoning because it was improper. We're trying to make the two properties one, so that way, which made sense when he was telling me that in the future, good Lord, take me on or somebody else come in and replace me, that they don't try and sell one piece and then, which may be the parking lot, and then the church is on one, even though the one property is 1.12. You know, we want to do everything decent and in order.
I understand. So it's all clear. I rode by and looked at it yesterday, and so that's what your plans are, is to erect the church. Will the church actually be on Celia Avenue?
I guess
Or
it's.
Celia Drive, I'm sorry. I said Avenue.
No, sir. I'm looking to do Celia as the parking lot.
Okay.
Pretty much maybe as a overflow parking lot. We're looking to push the church back on the Langdon part, since it goes back a good little piece, and we're roughly at 50, 60 members. We planted the church back in June 2016, and we're doing all right. We're looking to purchase the piece of land that's adjacent to our left, which is, I believe, is 4418 Langdon, and that way we have additional, not to try and build no mega church or anything like that, but, you know, one, I believe in trying to help the community. It's an eyesore, and to clear the land, and, you know, to try and help, because I see a lot of children as they come from school. I have a bunch of teachers, so, you know, we may be able in the future to do an after-school program to help kids with homework, some that where parents may be still at work. You know, we just, instead of, you know, not instead of, but in conjunction with worship, to try and help the community as well.
Okay. Sounds good to me. All right, commissioners, do y'all have any questions of Reverend York? Anyone? Everybody's quiet today. All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for this case? Please come forward at this time. Nobody's moving. Is there anyone in the audience like to speak against this case? Please come forward at this time. Again, it's quiet. All right, commissioners, open the floor for a motion.
In the matter of case REZN 03210588, I move that we approve the request.
All right, and we have a motion to approve. And what is your reasoning?
See nothing wrong with it. Seems appropriate.
Okay. And do we have a second? Have a second? Several seconds. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to the special exception use of this same property. Mr. Renfro.
Okay, special exception use request to allow for a church located at 1372 Celia Drive, Columbus, Georgia 31907. The church, we require special exception under 2 acres over 1 acre. I will read the staff report. The access is or will the type of street providing access to the use be adequate to serve the proposed special exception uses. Celia Drive is a local road. Langdon Street is a local road. These roads will provide adequate free flow movement, Traffic and pedestrian safety is or will access into and out of the property be adequate to provide for traffic and pedestrian safety, the anticipated volume of the traffic flow and access by emergency vehicles. Access into and out of the property in question will provide for adequate traffic and pedestrian safety and emergency access. Adequacy of public facilities are or will public facilities such as school, water, or sewer utilities, and police and fire protection be adequate to serve the special exception use. Services such as water utilities, police, and fire protection are adequate. Protection from adverse effects are or will refuge, service, parking, and loading areas or the property be located or screened to protect other properties in the area from such adverse effects as noise, light, glare, or odor. The property is surrounded by SFR2, single-family residential 2. Noise, light, flare, and odor should be limited due to the nature of the business. Hours of operation. Will the hours and manner of operation of the special exception use have no adverse effects on other properties in the area? The hours of operation of this use will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties in this area. Compatibility. Will the height, size, or location of the buildings or other structures on the property be compatible with the height, size, character, or location buildings or or other structures on the neighboring properties. The structures, height, size, and location shall match the uses found in other SFR2 single-family residential 2 properties. Council district is District 1 Barnes. 65 property owners within 300 feet of the property have been notified by mail or email of the proposed special use exception use. The planning department received 1 call and or email regarding the rezoning, and that was 1 for approval.
Commissioners, y'all have any questions of Mr. Renfro regarding the special exception for this property? All right. Yes.
No,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay, go right ahead. I saw your light up, and I know there's no one in the audience that's going to oppose it, so we'll go ahead and go forward.
Okay, in regards to EXCP 0321-0589, I make a motion that we accept a request for special exception use at 1372 Cecilia Drive. Current zoning is SFR 3, single-family residential 3. The proposed use is church. Agape Missionary Baptist Church is the applicant, and the property is located in Council District 1.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Got a second? Several seconds? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have one more UDO change coming up, and I think Mr. Johnson's going to make that presentation, and I'll read that off. This is REZN 04210712. This is a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, in regards to amending Table 3.1.1 and Chapter 13 pertaining to dog parks. All right, and I'll refer...
I'll read the staff report real quick.
Go right ahead. Thank you, sir.
Explanation of revisions, amend Table 3.1.1 by permitting the following use in the following districts: private dog park allowed in UPT and CRD. And then for the second one, explanation of revisions, amend Chapter 13 definitions by adding a definition for private dog park.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you heard from Mr. Renfro, we're introducing a category called private dog park. As possibly y'all have seen several media releases, Fetch Dog Park out of Atlanta is looking to open one of their first dog parks outside of Atlanta here in Columbus. Normally, with a text amendment change like this for a private business, we would have the person actually doing the business come and do it. But because this is something completely new that we had to go look into our alcohol ordinances and several other ordinances, it was just prudent that we handle it ourselves. Right now, it will only be allowed in UPT and CRD, just so we see how it does. It could expand in the future to other zoning classifications, and we will address that when the time comes.
Can you give us a description of what a private dog park would be?
Yeah,
For those that aren't familiar.
they opened the first one in the old Ninth Ward in Atlanta. They're near the Beltline.
Yeah.
And essentially what they have is they have a little Airstream set up with a bar. I think they have a small stage for folks to play music. And you have a membership. But you don't get the membership. Your dog gets the membership. So your dog is the member. But you as an individual, if you don't have a dog, you can go in and out like you could any other commercial establishment. But yeah, and they have several requirements for the dogs: neutered, spayed, certain age, all your shots, all that good stuff. And it's just a place for you to go and relax and let your dog run, essentially.
So there's a screening process before the dog's admitted?
There's a screening process, and then
Okay.
they have food trucks as well. But the food trucks obviously are outside of the operation because you know how dogs are around food.
Yeah.
That's the type of operation they got. They're opening 3 more in Atlanta. They're looking at Birmingham and Nashville, and as of right now, I think we're the first one outside of Atlanta.
Okay. All right, something very unique to downtown, apparently. All right. Commissioners, y'all have, Mr. Dudley.
I certainly don't have any concern with dog parks, but I do have some concerns I've discussed with Mr. Renfro about public notification on this sort of thing. If we were going to make a zoning change in one property, we'd notify everybody within 300 feet of the property. But if we're making a change like this, which in theory could affect anybody in the whole district, and we're not notifying anybody, that seems,
Well, text
Like a
amendment
problem.
changes are not property-specific, and that's why we don't send out letters.
right?
I mean, if we did send out letters to everyone in UPT and
Yeah, I
CRD,
mean, I understand that
I mean,
that's
it would
not
be
realistic.
tens of thousands of dollars that, under state law, we're not required to send out
Right.
letters. We do, however, run our legal ad and do all those things and post on social media, across all platforms. So
What
we
sort
get it
of-
out there more than what we're required.
Okay, what sort of social media posting do you do?
We do Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And that's the city's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram?
It's planning department.
Planning departments, okay. Is there any effort to alert Facebook groups in the affected neighborhoods, the affected districts?
We have Facebook groups that are friends with Columbus Plans on Facebook.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
going to be located behind the Unita Glass? Is that
Yes,
where-
ma'am.
And is all that asphalt going to be taken up and grass put in there? or-
It's not, now that, I think they are gonna pull up the asphalt, but it's a special kind of turf they use. It's not grass.
So the dog owners are responsible for cleaning up after
Nope,
their...
that would be what they call the bark rangers.
Oh. So somebody else cleans up after the dogs?
That's right, they've got folks employed there that go around and make sure there's no droppings and all that good stuff.
And is there a fence around this?
Yes, ma'am.
That's interesting.
Like I said, this is not many folks have been up there, obviously, because who would take their dog to Atlanta?
Right.
But it's very popular, and again, we're trying to figure out how best to do it here.
And so there'll be parking, because not everybody's going to be in walking distance, so,
Yes, there's parking. I think that the owners own almost all that parking lot along Fifth. So half of it or two-thirds of it will be the dog park, and the rest will be parking.
All right, new things coming to Columbus. All right, any other questions? And obviously, there's no one in the audience. Would you like to speak on this case? She loves it. There you go, there you go. Well, we have a customer already, so, anyway. All right, I open the floor up for a motion, commissioners.
I'll go
Mr.
ahead.
Ridley?
Oh, who's going,
In the request REZN 0421072, request for a text amendment to amend the UDO pertaining to dog parks, I recommend approval of the request.
Okay, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? Several seconds here. Any discussion? All those in favor to accept this change, please raise your right hand. And same sign. I see it was unanimous. All right, welcome to Columbus Dog Parks. All right, that concludes our cases for today. New business, in the event I have to be absent, we have not elected a vice chairman. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. When I came in, I saw the paper and I saw the listings of the different rezoning, and the one that I'm talking about, I didn't see it on the list.
Okay, please
So how do
come to the platform. Tell me your name and address.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Moffett. I live at 104 30th Avenue.
Okay,
And the proposed land that I'm talking about is a rezoning of Lot 181 30th Avenue, which is the corner of 30th and North Lumpkin.
is that in the next batch, Mr. Renfro? Yes, I know which one you're talking about. I've seen the signs.
That one is for the 5th.
The 5th of?
5th of May.
5th of May?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's when I come back, because the south side is already known for not anything good. And I spoke to the person on the board, Blanca, and she told me that they're trying to put a tire shop there.
Okay.
Well, no. We have single-family homes there on both sides of said property. It's a little tiny lot. No. Tire shops bring rats, roaches, snakes and everything, and there are people there with their children. So I'm opposed to it, and I'm in the process now of, I called and someone told me how to do it, to get this petition signed by neighbors to bring it back on May 5th, to propose it.
Yes, ma'am.
All
And
right, God bless you all.
Well,
Thank you.
wait a minute, wait a minute.
one thing, that petition, if there's any way that you could forward it to me, before
you
the
can have this
meeting.
one.
You don't have to give it to me now. You can, once you get all the signatures and everything, anyone who wants to sign it, if you can send that to me a day or two before the meeting, then I can forward that to the commissioners so
Right
that they
now.
can see.
Who I need to send it to? But no, our neighborhood is already known for bad and ugly.
I saw
And-
those zoning signs, and I was curious too, but
No,
but it will be May 5th, the same place, same time.
All right, God bless you all. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully I can bring a couple people with me. I'm gonna try my best. We don't need anything else out there in the neighborhood. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you very much. God bless you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our business for today. As I was saying, we didn't elect a vice chairman, so I'd like to open up the floor for nominations of vice chair. Anyone? Oh, Ms. Weekly?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate, Commissioner Larry Derby to fill that position as vice chair.
All right, we have one nomination. Do we have any others?
A second, Larry Derby.
You do? Wow, they like you. Well, if Mr. Derby, are you willing to serve as vice chairman, Mr. Derby? Okay. All right, we'll need a vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of making Mr. Derby vice chairman, raise your right hand. And thank you very much. It's unanimous. Now, I believe that's all we have today. Mr. Renfro, do you have any new business, old business you want to discuss?
As far as new business, we have a lot of cases coming up on the 5th. I think we have 8, and we may have one more that I'm looking at, just to make sure that everything is correct on it before everything is sent out on that. So just make sure you're ready for a long meeting on the 5th. Other than that, after this meeting, if y'all don't mind staying back for a few minutes just to discuss a few things, that's pretty much it.
All right, well, we'll conclude this meeting for today, and we are adjourned.